Right, this video is all about replacing the water pump on an SLK 320 model R170. It's the V6 engine, 3.2, and the water pump has got a play in it and is knocking. So the first thing I'm going to try and do is remove the radiator fan to give me a little bit more room. Right, this is the new water pump for my Mercedes SLK 320. It's a KWP part, got it from Eurocar Parts, and it came with a flat paper type gasket, and also came with this square section O-ring. I presume that there must be two different ways Mercedes fitted the pump on the engine, and the only thing I can presume is that one engine block must have a groove in it for the square section O-ring, because the pump on the back has no groove for an O-ring. So I can only presume that it is for the engine block. It's quite a large item. That's your main hose off to your radiator, bottom radiator. There's another hose that comes off the bottom as well, and that one there is where your oil cooler goes. Alternator bolts in through there, tensioner bolts, or idler bolts in through there. So that is the new water pump. Right, firstly I've removed the two intake hoses, one this side and one this side. I've removed the plug for the radiator fan. I've unclipped this hose, and the radiator looks like it's held in with some little clips, which just you prise them off to start with a screwdriver, and then they just come out by hand. It turns out the radiator just pulled out. It was held in two little slots in the bottom there. So there's one that side and one on the other side. So just a bit of pulling, wriggling. The hardest bit was just getting it past these hoses here. Right, with a long breaker bar on the tensioner, belt tensioner, and a 15mm socket, you can now release the pressure and remove the drive belt. Right, what you do need to do is remember which way you've took the belt off, and the direction of belt, and the configuration of the belt round the pulleys. So it does always pay to take like a photo maybe of how the belts were configured round the pulleys, but the main thing is remember which way it went on. Alright, the direction. I've actually left my belt partly in place because I can't seem to get it past what I believe to be the power steering pulley and the hose, which is that hose there. It seems to be very tight against there. There isn't a gap to get the belt off, so I've actually just pulled the belt and laid it into the side of the inner wing. Right, before you even start this job, what you're definitely going to want is some torque sockets. The alternator is held on with a E14, and the whole water pump is held on with torque sockets everywhere. So you're going to need torque sockets to get the Torx bolts out. Here's a bracket. This is mounted onto the water pump, and there's two Torx bolts there, and I think this sensor will have to come off. This sensor hair will have to come off the bracket, so I'm gonna, and the other thing is you need to also pop this cap out of hair so you can get this pulley off as well. As you can see, the bolt for the idler wheel goes right through the pump and into the engine block. Right, the next thing I'm going to do, I haven't drained the radiator. I'm going to try and cheat a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove hoses and catch fluid as I go. So I'm going to get this hose off here first. This clip here just That just, you release one side and then it's sort of a 2 screwdriver job really, but you can release that. This clip here is just held in with just one of them sprung clips, and then there's a proper Jubilee clip on the bigger hose. So they're the 2 hoses I'm going to remove first. There's also a 3rd hose here, and that comes from the oil cooler and comes down and just goes on there. So that's just a little hose there. But if I take them 2 main ones off first, I think I'm going to get quite a bit of fluid, which I'm going to try and catch in some containers. I'm going to put a big container under the car, and then I'm going to put some little containers just in the engine under this bit here. Right, quite a bit of coolant came out, several litres, just from taking that one hose off. I'm now going to have a go at doing the bottom hose, and I did actually manage to save quite a lot of the coolant. There is a little in the bottom tray, but that'll be fine. Right, I've now got that other bottom hose off, and the only one left now is the oil cooler. Now there's so little flexibility in this bit of pipe work here that I think the best bet is to disconnect, get all the water pump loose and unbolted, and then get that pipe off. Otherwise you've got to take the oil cooler off, and that is going to be not a job you really want to do. So I'm going to leave that. I've undone the clip, and now it's going to start undoing all the bolts. There's 2 different size bolts holding the water pump on. Some 6mm ones, 6mm threads, and some 8mm threads. You're going to need E10s and E12 torque sockets to get these out. Right, there's 14 bolts in total, various sizes. Be careful, some are hidden behind other little bits and pieces, so you really need to be observant at which ones you're trying to get out. I've now got my pump off. It's very clean inside there, so the antifreeze has obviously been perfect at keeping corrosion at bay. Mine is the one fitted with the O-ring in the groove, so I've now got to clean all that up and then install a new O-ring and then try and install a new pump. Right, to get the water pump pulley off, I've just put the impeller part just in the jaws of the vise. I didn't even really tighten it up that tight. They're holding on fairly easily, and then you can get on there with a spanner and undo the bolts. The bearing is very dry in there. And there's play, so definitely the problem. Right, don't forget to get your little bit of hose off the end of the water pump as well. So I've now prized that off. That was a lot easier getting off. Just hold it in the vise and then just lever it off with a screwdriver. So that's that bit done. And I'll now fit that back on the new one before I go too far. Right, what I've done is I've cleaned round the O-ring groove with a little brass bristled brush and cleaned all the sort of corrosion out from the top half. And then I've used a vacuum cleaner with the process as well, with cleaning the groove out to try and suck the debris away and stop anything getting back into the engine. So I used the hoover for that. As you can see, it's all very clean. So I'm now going to put the gasket back in, the new gasket in. Right, the new gasket is in place. I did coat it with a little bit of silicone grease just to try and keep it to stay, and it was a little bit of a bugger to try and stay in the groove. That's now in, and the pump is now going to go back on. Right, what you want to do is you've got to get that hose on there, just on, and I'll put a little bit of silicone grease on that to help that. But then you need to go in with a torch and make sure you haven't disturbed the gasket, and then you've got to try and get the pump on without moving the gasket. Right, as for torque wrench settings, I've now had a little look on the internet, and people are saying 25 newton meters for the M8s and 10 newton meters for the M6s. I think I'm going to do the M8s up first and then do the 6s. Right, Just to make the job a little bit more interesting, the people who manufactured the water pump haven't tapped or threaded them two holes. They're M6 and they haven't tapped them out at all on my new pump, so I've got no way of mounting the bracket back on. So what I've now got to do is using a tap wrench and a 6mm tap the holes out. Luckily I have the equipment to do this. If you haven't, you might be slightly buggered. But I've now got to try and tap it in situ, which is a bit annoying. If I'd have noticed before I'd fitted it, I could have tapped it in the vise like I've got it here. As you can now see, my tap wrench is not going to work, so I've now got to find a different one. Right, these are the two holes I'm talking about. They haven't been tapped out, so I'm now going to have to do that. Right, with them two holes now tapped out, which honestly took 5 minutes, but I find it strange that they weren't tapped out. I can now get the screws in and then put that one back in there for that little sensor. Right, another quick thing I ought to mention as well is, when you're putting the water pump on, do make sure this cable and this little bit of conduit is able to go around between the alternator, the engine block and the water pump. Okay, right, don't forget to put the alternator bolt back in, and I've torqued that up as an M10. I've done that to 50 Newton meters. Right, I'm using the Comma Extreme G48 and I've mixed it 50-50 with deionized water. So I've already poured quite a lot in, poured about 5 litres worth in. I'm now let it settle. I've squeezed a few hoses, and I'm now going to top up a bit more. Then I'm going to put the pulley back on, and then we might be able to run it. Right, to do the water pump bolts up, which are only 10 Newton meters because they're obviously M6, I've used a large sort of oil filter belt wrench and had that round, and I've nipped all 4 bolts up. To get the belt on is get it round all the pulleys the way I have, and just leave this top one free. Get it around the alternator, water pump, the tensioner, make sure it's in all the grooves, and then just pull the tensioner back and pop the belt back on. And there you have it, it's all back on. Now what I'll probably do is run it without the rad coolant fan in, as I want to check for leaks and stuff. Right, it's all now up and running, up to temperature. Coolant level seems to have stabilised. I've been running it for about 10 minutes. Very quiet now, so I'm very happy. Right, the car's been running for about 10 to 15 minutes. The hoses all got hot. I believe the thermostat opened. I've now let it stand for about 10 minutes, and the coolant level has dropped by about 1/4 inch. So I'm going to put the cap on and take it for a run, and hopefully everything is now sorted. As you can see, I've done 30 miles with the car yesterday. I've now come out to it this morning, and it's about a 1.5 inches down, I suppose, on the coolant. Always check it cold. It should be level with the clear piece in here. There's also a indicator piece of plastic inside the tank. I don't know whether you can see it in the coolant. It's supposed to be level with that, with the engine cold. So I'm now going to top it up, and hopefully everything will be fine. The 30-mile drive I did yesterday, I had the heater on full heat but just low fan, so to get full circulation around the whole cooling system. Right, I put approximately about 3/4 of a litre in, which was mixed coolant. I haven't gone completely to the level tag inside because the car is on a slight slope, but as you can see from the side of the tank, I think we've probably got the right amount in now with it being cold. So I will run it again and check it again tomorrow.